Well, everybody, it's time for another edition of my newest video series, Hot Takes. Pretty simple. I look at some of the hot takes that you gave me, and I respond, and I give you my opinion on your hot takes. So without further ado, here is Hot Takes Volume 2. Wow, that actually rhymed. That was pretty cool. I'm so talented. Waffles are superior to pancakes. It feels like pancakes are the staple when waffles are clearly better. Well, you know what's not better? Blue waffles. I'll tell you that much. But I disagree. I believe that pancakes are superior to waffles. They're flatter. They're not as tough on the roof of your mouth. They go better with syrup, in my opinion. So I am going to disagree. Pancakes are better than waffles. Longevity in a quarterback is overvalued. I disagree with this. If you can get a good quarterback that gives you above average league production for a prolonged period of time, that is not a bad thing. Now, again, you have your compilers and stuff, but you have compilers at every position in every sport. Guys who play too long that aren't great. But I still feel like, yeah, if you can have productive play from your quarterback over a long period of time, I don't think that's overvalued at all. 2007 New England Patriots are still the best team ever, despite not winning it all. You know, I just can't go there. I can't. To me, if you want to be considered the best team of all time, you got to win the Super Bowl. You got to win the championship at a bare minimum. And I don't care how great you were before, but that along the checklist of things is required, in my mind, to be the best. Because if you weren't even the best, if you weren't the champion in your own season, then there's no way that you're the best team of all time. Now, you could say they're one of the best teams of all time, which they were, but the best team? No, you got to win the Super Bowl, or you got to win the championship at a bare minimum in order to be in that conversation. Allen Iverson was the most successful one-man team in NBA history, meaning I cannot name another person any of his teams, but he carried the weight mostly by himself. Yeah, Allen Iverson did a great job in 2001, but 2018 LeBron is the best carried job in the history of the NBA, and maybe in all of sports. I'm sorry. If you were there, you will agree with me. It's not even close. James Harden had the second best offensive peak for any shooting guard ever, dropping 40 every night and leading the league in assists. Maybe if you're talking about regular season, sure, but the playoffs are a thing, and the playoffs do matter, particularly in basketball, and James Harden just completely crapped his pants every single year. So while he might, regular season only, might have better numbers than Kobe and D-Wade, he's not better than either of those guys overall, because his playoff numbers and his playoff failures are just too long. Country music is better than any other genre of music. I'm just going to say this bluntly. If you enjoy country music, you probably have severe brain damage. Queen is easily the best band of all time. The sheer amount of hits that they made is insane. Really, for me, I don't give a crap about ranking bands or ranking artists or rappers or stuff. I just enjoy the music. Like, if a person produces good music, that's really all I give a crap about, particularly if it's good workout music for when I'm running on the treadmill, not to brag. But yes, Queen easily, I mean, they're certainly in the discussion for one of the best bands ever, producing a bunch of hits. And Freddie Mercury, obviously, is one of the best frontmen ever. So I don't disagree with this hot take. I don't even know if it's really a hot take, to be honest with you. I think you're a phony. You're a big, fat phony. Ichiro Suzuki is the best hitter of all time. Wrong. For whatever reason, people, baseball fans, they get horny over guys who are great contact hitters but don't hit for a lot of power. Yes, Ichiro was obviously a very good hitter, over 3,000 hits, even though he started in his late 20s, but he didn't hit home runs, okay? There are plenty of players who hit for more power, and the name of the game is home runs, baby. And the best hitter of all time is Barry Bonds, steroids or not. He's either Barry Bonds, I mean, there's a bunch of hitters better than Ichiro or better than Tony Gwynn. You know, Ted Williams, Stan Musial, I mean, all these guys who hit for power better than guys who hit a bunch of singles. Cam Newton's Heisman year at Auburn is not only the best college season ever, but it was also the most dominant college season by any player ever. While it's certainly up there as one of the best college seasons by any player ever, I personally, in my own eyes, I would say that it's tough to beat Joe Burrow's 2019 season. And I understand that Joe Burrow had better help at the skill positions than Cam did. But Burrow literally did not have a bad game all year long, and he put up unreal numbers. I mean, you just look at his game log, it's fucking ridiculous. He didn't have a single bad game, and he got even better in the playoffs. I mean, 60 touchdowns to 6 interceptions. I mean, I know Cam was great, but to me, best season by any quarterback in FBS history has to be Joe Burrow 2019, just in my opinion, because he did everything. Heisman Trophy, All-American, National Championship, no bad games. Joe Burrow 2019 gets my vote, but Cam Newton obviously is pretty well up there. Roger Staubach would have been the GOAT if he didn't spend a large chunk of his prime serving his country. Respect. Yes, we do respect Roger here. And yes, it's true that Roger got off to a slow start, not just because he was serving his country, but because he really didn't become the full-time starter. I mean, 3 of his first 4 years in the NFL, he wasn't the starter for the Cowboys. Cowboys. He was changing places and getting swapped in and out with Craig Morton. It wasn't until he turned 31 years old that he became the undisputed full-time Cowboys starter. And my thing with Staubach is I think he's an overrated playoff quarterback. He did win 2 Super Bowls, and he made, I think, 4 as the starter, and he did win a Super Bowl MVP. So he's one of the best quarterbacks of all time. Had he started earlier with the Cowboys, would they have won a couple more Super Bowls? I mean, who knows? I will just say this, that for a guy who is consistently considered the best, he got outplayed by Terry Bradshaw twice in the Super Bowl. And in those 2 Super Bowls in the 70s, that really swung who the dynasty of that decade was. You know, instead of the Cowboys being the dynastic team in the 70s, it ended up being the Steelers because of those 2 Super Bowls that Staubach lost, Terry Bradshaw. Trevor Lawrence is protected and should get the same questions as guys like Daniel Jones and Kyler Murray. Well, I don't think Trevor Lawrence has lived up to his hype, but he's still better than Daniel Jones. Yeah, he's more like Kyler Murray, but I feel like Kyler Murray gets shit too. People are kind of like, yeah, he's okay. I do feel like more and more people are starting to come around on Trevor, realizing that, hey, he still hasn't really had that one great season that we've all been expecting. We thought it was going to be last year, and it didn't happen that way. So I wouldn't exactly say he's protected, but the seat is kind of getting a little bit warmer for him, especially since he just got a lot of money. Anthony Richardson, Big Tony, will be in the MVP convo this upcoming NFL season and will lead the Colts to winning the AFC South. Well, again, this is if he hits on everything because of his raw physical talent. Nobody thought that CJ Stroud was going to be as good as he was, so I can't sit here and say that Anthony Richardson won't be great. But CJ Stroud is now in the division and has another year of experience, and the Texans are improving their defense. So I disagree about the Colts winning the AFC South, but I think again, I'm a big fan of Big Tony, so I hope that he goes on to have a great career because he should be fun to watch. But I disagree about the Colts winning the AFC South this year, but I do think he could be in the MVP combo. Barry's Eagles will miss the playoffs. Smiley emoji. Well, you know, pal, you can suck my balls. We're gonna win Super Bowl 59. I know I've been saying that every year for the last couple years. But God damn it, one of these times I'm gonna be right about it. Draymond Green wouldn't have even been an all-star without riding Golden State's coattails. I don't think he'd be as well known as he is now, but I disagree because I feel like his defensive instincts is an innate skill that he just has. And he fell into a great situation, sure, but it's an example of a good player falling into a great situation, and not everybody is lucky enough to have that happen to them. It happened to Draymond, but I still feel like he would have been one of the better known defenders in the league, even if he wasn't drafted by Golden State, and maybe would have been able to get an all-star appearance or 2 in there. Jose Altuve gets into the Hall of Fame despite the allegations. First off, fuck Jose Altuve. Secondly, I don't know about that because, I mean, he does have an MVP award that belonged to Aaron Judge. He's got a couple World Series wins. Are his numbers so good that you're willing to overlook the fact that he was a cheater? I don't know. Is he going to be able to play long enough to get 3,000 hits? I feel like that's going to be a big deal for him because he's not going to reach any home run milestones or RBI milestones, but he's still a good player. As of right now, I don't think he's in the Hall of Fame, but I think if he has a couple more good seasons, then he will make it. 2004 Pistons could have beat the 2016 Warriors. Their defense was something to behold. Yeah, you know what, buddy? I'm going to have to put a big fat no right there because those 04 Pistons, they went 7 games with the fucking 04 Nets, okay? And the 04 Nets were nothing special. The 2016 Warriors are still one of the greatest teams ever, even if they didn't win it all. And they would have simply beaten the Pistons with the numbers game just by outshooting them from 3. The Pistons offensively suck, so you're not going to be able to outshoot 2016 Warriors. So I disagree extremely. Wemby will become a top 3 NBA player of all time. Well, we'll never know for sure, and his highlights sure are freaky enough to make you think that. But I would say that that's not going to happen strictly because you can't really run your offense through Wemby the way that you can through LeBron, through Michael Jordan, and even Kareem earlier in his career. Those are the top 3 in my opinion. Even Kareem earlier in his career, he was up to around 5 assists per game some seasons. I don't think Wemby is a guy, I've said this before, I think Wemby's tenure with the Spurs is going to look a lot like Anthony Davis's tenure with the Pelicans. He does a lot of great things, but he's just not a guy you can run your offense through, and I think that's going to stunt his growth, and I think that's going to stunt the Spurs' growth with him there, even though he is going to become a superstar player. I don't think he's going to become a top 3 player of all time. That is it's unbelievably difficult to crack top 5 or top 10 players ever, let alone top 3. So for as talented as he is, I don't see that happening. Tracy McGrady is the most talented basketball player of all time. Career was ruined by injury. I don't understand. I don't know what talent could mean anything. He obviously had a lot of talent. He was 6'8", 6'9". He could handle the ball, shoot, he could pass. So he had great skills, but the most talented player ever, I I don't agree with that at all. It sounds boring and lame, but I think LeBron's probably the most talented player ever, just in terms of the mix of athleticism and IQ and all the stuff. Tim Duncan, top 3 all time. No. Tim Duncan, if you want to say he's top 12, top 10, in the lower part of the top 10, I get it, but he's not a top 3 player. He's not better than LeBron, Jordan, or Kareem, and it's not even a discussion. Just not enough offense. Players' greatness should be judged primarily by playoff performance. Depending on the sport, though. For the most part, I agree. It depends on the sport, though, and I feel like I've answered this question before, but it's my channel. I'll answer it again because it's a fucking free country. I feel like with NBA players, playoffs are a massive part of your legacy. In the NFL, quarterbacks, the playoffs are a very tricky thing, but they are a big part of quarterback's legacy. All of the best quarterbacks ever, they all have a bunch of deep playoff runs and a lot of playoff stats. In baseball, it's not so simple. In baseball, I don't really hold it against the guy. I look at postseason play in baseball as more of extra credit as opposed to something of necessity like I do with NBA or NFL players. So it depends on the sport, but for quarterbacks and for NBA players, I think it matters the most, but it's very contextual. Halloween Ends is better than most sequels in the franchise. I am judging you. I want you to know that I'm judging you because that is one of the worst fucking takes I've ever seen. It's not a hot take, it's a shit take. Halloween Ends is one of the worst movies of all time, and if you think it's good, you have serious brain problems. Colin Kaepernick was the most skilled running quarterback of all time. He's certainly up there. He can certainly run the ball pretty well, but the answer to this is Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson is pretty easily the best running quarterback of all time. He's got the volume and the consistency at this point to show for it, and he's still not even anywhere close to being done with his career. So while Kaepernick might be in the top 5, even if you want to really think about it, the answer to number 1 is Lamar Jackson, to me. Not sure if a hot take, but if MJ didn't hurt his knee in 2002, his time with the Wizards would have gone much better and would be used by fans as a reinforcement of his legacy and GOAT argument rather than pretending it didn't happen or having a net neutral effect on his legacy. Well, that's kind of the whole point, is that his first year back with the Wizards, he was old, man. Like, he started out doing okay, but that's why being old sucks, and it's hard to do, and it's hard to play at an extremely high level, and that's why LeBron playing at an extremely high level, yes, I'm bringing LeBron into it, at his age, it just goes to show you why it's even more impressive that LeBron was able to do that, because Jordan wasn't able to do it, and that was after he had taken 3 years off in a row, with about 20,000 fewer career minutes on his legs. But even if Jordan had never gotten hurt, I don't see any way his tenure with the Wizards weren't good, so I don't see him winning anything substantial with the Wizards, even if he never gotten hurt in 2002. Purdy isn't a top 10 quarterback. Yeah, that's just not true. He's a top 10 quarterback. You can say he might be in the best situation in the NFL, and it makes him look better than he is, but he still is a top 10 quarterback. The stats, they show it, and it's really non-debatable, in my opinion. So you should feel bad. With the full power of hindsight, the Colts would have been better off keeping Peyton Manning and trading the first overall pick instead of drafting Andrew Luck. Well, I mean, of course, if everybody had known that Andrew Luck was only going to play, 6 seasons or 5.5 seasons or whatever the hell he played, and Peyton was going to go to Denver and break the single season touchdown record and appear in a couple Super Bowls and win a Super Bowl. Yeah, I mean, it really is crazy, though, when you look at from 2012 onward, when the Colts quit on Peyton and drafted Luck. I mean, yeah, I would say that I'd say Peyton and the Broncos got the better deal out of it, but at the same time, I don't think drafting Andrew Luck was the wrong decision. I don't think in the moment, I don't think it was the wrong decision to move on from Peyton to go with Andrew Luck, because nobody could have foreseen how the future would unfold. Josh Allen is the best quarterback in the league. I'm going to take a wild guess and say that you are a Bills fan, because there is no way anybody can think that Patrick Mahomes isn't the best quarterback in the league right now. In fact, I can't remember the last time best quarterback in the league was so obvious as it is right now. Mahomes is clearly number 1, and then there's everybody else. The first Friday the 13th film isn't that bad. Well, I didn't know that, or I don't think that people think it's bad. I think that a lot of people realize that it's a good slasher film, even though it's basically a ripoff of Halloween. And on Rotten Tomatoes, it's the highest rated movie in the series. Where the series really starts to go off the rails is after part 6. Like part 7, Jason, then you got Jason Takes Manhattan. Every Jason movie after part 6 is just complete dog shit. And part 5 was dog shit too. But if you're a horror fan, I just want to say the first 4 Friday the 13th movies are good, and part 6 is good. The remake from 2009 is okay, but those are like the only respectable ones. So I don't even think this is a hot take. I don't think anybody thinks the original Friday the 13th is bad. Kobe Bryant is more overrated than Tom Brady. Well, I don't know. Why? Both of them are pretty overrated. They're pretty much the same level of overratedness. I will say that unlike Kobe, Brady does have the resume to argue for the GOAT of of his sport, whereas Kobe doesn't. But I'd say they're very, very close. I don't think Kobe's more overrated than Tom Brady, though. Although, again, if I keep having to hear Kobe get put in the same conversation as LeBron and Jordan for the next 20 years, it probably will drive me crazy. Hot take: Tim Duncan is the most overrated player in NBA history. Ooh, now this is a sizzling hot take. And I'm not going to say that I agree with it, because I don't think he's the most overrated player in NBA history. But I don't think Tim Duncan is underrated the way that everybody says he is. And I think sometimes players are just properly rated. I think Tim Duncan is properly rated as one of the best players of all time. People say, well, played in a small market with the Spurs, so his accolades, MVPs, and his championships and stuff, they don't get talked about as much as somebody like LeBron or Kobe who played in LA, the big market, right? But that goes both ways. Tim Duncan had a bunch of failures in the postseason, had a bunch of bad losses in the postseason, and really, Tim Duncan basically load managed for about half of his career. And his numbers really weren't anything super special from 2008 onward, in the last 8 or 9 years of his career. Now, early in his career, he was a playoff riser and he put up great stats, so I can't say he's the most overrated player in NBA history. He's a legitimate all-time great. He was one of the best defenders in NBA history. But I do think it's annoying when people consider him to be underrated, because every time I hear him get brought up in a conversation, it's always shortly followed by, well, he's the best power forward ever, even though he didn't even play power forward for half his career. He played center once David Robinson retired. And he's one of the all-time greats and he's so underrated. That's all people say. And it's like, well, how is he underrated then? Is he the GOAT? No, he's not the GOAT. Is he one of the top 2 or 3 players ever? No. So I think he's pretty properly rated. The most overrated player of all time in NBA history? No. And finally, chocolate is the worst flavor of ice cream. No, the worst flavor of ice cream, or really any sort of candy or sweet, is mint flavor. If you like mint flavored ice cream or mint bars or mint chocolate, please port to your nearest lease station and surrender yourself immediately. You sick, disgusting bastard. You might as well just eat a tube of toothpaste, you disgusting fucks. Jesus Christ. You need to be put down like the sick bastards that you are.